Hi, I'm here today with Jeremy Swanson. We're here to discuss custody and visitation orders and the enforceability and how they should be put together and drafted. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. There are a few things to keep in mind when you are drafting a visitation and custody order to make it so that if a dispute arises, law enforcement can actually enforce the order. Some of the things to keep in mind are that some of the most common ways of doing custody orders are actually very vague. For instance, you oftentimes hear people put together an order that says visitation is mutually arranged. That gives you maximum flexibility to decide what the visitation is going to be, but it requires both parties to agree and to come to a resolution on those issues. It's completely unenforceable if a dispute comes up. So while some people choose to do that because it's a very informal way of doing it, and there's some advantages to that, you have to keep in mind that if a dispute comes up in the future, you're going to be back in court relitigating that issue in order to get an actual order put in. Another common problem is the alternating weekend scenario. Many non-custodial parents have every other weekend as their visitation schedule. And that can work in the beginning, but what happens 3 years later? If you have a law enforcement officer trying to determine whose weekend it is, and the order goes back 3 years ago, and you've had holidays in between, you've had summer vacation, how do they figure out whose weekend it is? It's pretty much impossible. So a better way to do that is to delineate what weekends they're going to have based on the Saturday. So you delineate it as the first and third Saturday, the second and fourth, or first, third, and fifth. There's many ways to do that that makes it easier for a law enforcement officer to actually read the order. Another thing to keep in mind is that you always need to have a copy of your most current order with you. You never know when that can come up, and you want to have the actually active order as opposed to an old order, because your ex may have the old order, and if you don't have something that postdates that, that's the current order, they're going to go with what is actually there in front of them.
Okay, so it'll actually say endorsed and signed by the court and everything else.
That's right.
And so that's your proof of when that order was issued?
That's right. There will be an endorsement date when it was entered into the court's file. It will say when the hearing is, and the law enforcement officer will look to find the most recent court hearing date, and will go with the one that happened the most recently.
Okay. I understand the weekend, the way you're saying to set up the weekends. But what about holidays? I mean, that can get a little tricky, right? Because holidays don't necessarily fall on weekends, or you know, the kids have certain days off from school and things like that. What's an approach that people can use to sort that out?
Holiday visitation schedules always supersede the normal visitation schedule. So keep in mind that whatever your normal schedule is, it's going to be altered by the holiday schedule. Again, something commonly done is to put that the holidays will be mutually arranged. And that works fine as long as you're getting along with your ex. If a problem occurs, you're going to need a detailed order. And that order is going to need to say who gets what holidays, what school vacation schedules, when the exchanges are, and puts all of that detail into the order so that it can be enforced. While it's sad that you have to have that kind of a detailed order over the holidays, they're actually quite common because everybody wants the holiday time with their children, and you get a lot of disputes over whether you're going to exchange on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. If so, what time? Where's the exchange going to take place? If there's any possibility of having that kind of a dispute, that needs to be laid out in advance in your order so that there's no question of when exchanges should be taking place.
Yeah, so nail down all the details.
That's correct.
Yeah.
In the end, it may seem like a lot of detail to be putting into the order, but by putting it into the order, you're actually preventing a future dispute. And that same principle goes for other holidays. For instance, Mother's Day and Father's Day. Typically, the parent whose holiday it is will get that weekend, but it needs to state that. Otherwise, you're going to have a problem when you come up to that day. Even holidays like Halloween, who's going to take the children trick-or-treating becomes a big issue if you don't do that. And the most common way is to split the years and to say one parent gets on odd numbered years, one parent gets on even. But if your order doesn't say that, then you're just asking for a fight.
Yeah, it's all about clarity.
That's right.
Okay. Well, thank you, Jeremy. So that's Jeremy Swanson, and with Swanson Odell, and I'm Matthew Falker, and thank you for listening.